Welcome to Van Life with Steve, and thank you for joining me for a visit to Mount St. Helens National Monument, located in Washington State, about 90 miles south of Seattle. Mount St. Helens is not a national park, so we will pass on the park summary. I do encourage you to please stay to the end of the video where I will give you my overall recommendation for the National Monument, and I'm going to have some tips, and one especially important tip if you plan on visiting Mount St. Helens anytime in the near future. Prior to the 1980 eruption, Mount St. Helens was known for its picturesque snow-topped symmetrical cone and was actually referred to as the Mount Fuji of America. And then, on a fateful morning, May 18, 1980, the mountain erupted with the force of 25 megatons, resulting in the largest known landslide in history. And here we'll take in some archival footage of the mountain erupting. Prior to the eruption, people kind of knew something was going to happen because you could see there was a huge bulge there on the side of the mountain. And the sequence of events that took place was it was actually an earthquake that triggered the landslide on the mountain. And because you had the force of the magma, the landslide weakened the north face of the mountain. And then that caused the eruption, resulting in the directed blast there to the north. And the result of the eruption was just absolute devastation to an over 200 square mile area, resulting in the deaths of 57 people, tens of thousands of animals, and knocked over countless trees. For my visit there, you're basically, as you get off I-5, you're going to get on State Route 504, which is also known as the Spirit Lake Highway, and you're going to encounter the Washington State Parks Visitor Center, which I kind of skipped that, but I did come across this very friendly deer, and we'll take a few moments. I know some people like the animals, so we'll take a little bit to take a look at the deer. After visiting with that little guy, I headed up State Route 504 to the Johnston Visitor Center at the National Monument. Like a lot of places, they got these really cool relief maps of the area, and they have a ton of information on volcanoes, earthquakes, lava, magma, everything you'd want to know about the eruption and other eruptions in history. And maybe the most interesting thing I learned from being at the visitor center was actually Mount St. Helens wasn't that large of an eruption. They have a chart here of various historical eruptions, and you can see Mount St. Helens was one of the smallest. So heading out of the Johnston Observatory, which is named for David Johnston, who was a volcanologist there on the date of the eruption studying the mountain, and he sadly perished during the eruption, and the observatory was named in his honor. He did a lot of work to warn people of the impending eruption and actually saved a lot of lives, along with many other geologists. In the distance there, that is Spirit Lake, and the froth around the lake are actually trees that were blown into the lake by the eruption, and they're floating there to this day, over 40 years later. I decided to hike out to Devil's Point, and it's about a 4 or 5 mile hike and about 900 feet elevation gain, and there's very little shade. So it is a strenuous hike, and you're kind of walking along the Johnston Ridge there, and you can get pretty much 360-degree views of the entire landscape, and you get amazing views of Mount St. Helens. If you're enjoying this content, I'd appreciate it so much if you would please give me a like, and please consider giving me a follow or subscribing if you want to see more of these videos. Thank you so much, and let's continue with the video. You can very clearly see the lava dome there that has built up over the last 40 years. Extremely eerie thing looking at it and seeing the steam rising from the mountain. Here's a monument they have to all of those that were victims of the eruption. But if you notice in the photos of the mountain before the eruption, this was a heavily forested area, and it's almost like a desert landscape. Here we are 42 years later at this point. As we walk along the trail here, and now you're looking on the other side of the ridge, so these mounds of rocks and soil, this was the north face of the mountain that slid down and subsequently spewed over the ridge. So at this point, Mount St. Helens is about 4 miles away from where I'm standing. And Johnston Ridge, its elevation is 1,100 to 1,300 feet above the valley below. And so it was difficult for me to mentally process that something from 4 miles away could rush down the mountain and rush up that hill and then go past me. There in the distance is the aforementioned Devil's Point. And here we'll take in some views after I walked out there. There again is Spirit Lake. Mount Adams is the mountain there in the far distance, and you can see the floating tree trunks there in the lake, and you just get an incredible view here of the entire area. And there in the upper right is the Johnston Observatory. So heading back to the van from the parking lot, like I said, it's just a humbling thing to sit there and to see all these trees that were knocked down 40 years ago. And this is about 5 miles from the mountain where you're at. And it's just extremely humbling to be in a spot to where if you were standing here on that day in 1980, you would not be in a survivable situation. So my overall recommendation for Mount St. Helens Volcanic National Monument is it's a must visit if you're visiting Washington State. I can't say maybe you just go there just to visit this, but if you're visiting Washington, going to Mount Rainier and stuff like that, no brainer to come here. Seeing the effects of the eruption on the landscape, it's an experience that's difficult to describe, but everybody should experience it. So recommend it 100%. Just understand that as a national monument, this does not have all of the recreational opportunities that a national park would. So there's no lodge or anything like that. But I found the crowds extremely manageable. I was the only one out there at Devil's Point. Really terrific experience. Okay, first some tips. The most important tip is in 2023, there was a landslide that knocked out the only road to the Johnston Observatory. So all the stuff you're seeing, you actually can't visit this as of the posting of this video. The best estimate of the time for the Johnston Ridge reopening is 2026 or 2027. There are some other places you can visit, but the road is completely not passable from the Coldwater Lake area east. So that's the most important thing you need to know. You have plenty of times to see other things for the next few years before coming to see this. For fees, the Johnston Observatory, when it was open, there was an $8 fee, but that was covered by my America the Beautiful pass, so I didn't pay anything. You can climb Mount St. Helens, and there is one route that doesn't require any technical mountain climbing, but you do need permits for any of that. So there are only a couple of hikes, and there are only a few viewpoints you really need of the mountain. So half day is really all you need to get out there and get one good hike in. But there are many other things you can do in the area. There's, I think it's called the Ape Cave, and it's kind of like this very long lava tube, which is south of the mountain. And so you can make this a several day outing if you want and explore some of the other places that are around the mountain. And as Mount St. Helens is within a national forest, basically as you get farther east or you get closer to the mountain, when the road is open, they don't have a no overnight parking thing. You can park there. So a lot of abundant and easy to access boondocking made visiting Mount St. Helens extremely easy. So that's another reason why I rate this very highly. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this look at Mount St. Helens Volcanic National Monument. I appreciate you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks and take care. Bye.